Okay, here we go. Stand by. 3, 2, 1.
The thinking atheist. It's not a person. It's a symbol. An idea.
The population of atheists in this country is going through the roof.
Rejecting faith. Pursuing knowledge. Challenging the sacred.
If I tell the truth, it's because I tell the truth. Not because I put my hand on a book and made a wish.
And working together for a more rational world.
Take the risk of thinking for yourself. Much more happiness, truth, beauty, and wisdom will come to you that way.
Assume nothing. Question everything. And start thinking. This is the Thinking Atheist Podcast. Hosted by Seth Andrews.
My fellow animal lovers, you ever wonder if it's worth it? We know it is. I know it is. But we pay a heavy price for love, don't we? We had a traumatic moment. So, you know Kat, right? Probably most famous for that drawing that I did at the Recovering from Religion fundraiser. And I did this sort of last second Sharpie drawing that was done so quickly, there's not even a tail on the cat. It just came out funny and it became a thing. And then Matt Dillahunty said, if we raise this much for RFR, I will have this tattooed on my body. And he did. He's got Cat, or that drawing that I did of Cat, on his calf. I just horrified by the idea. I tried to talk him out of it. Dude, you know, and he just thought it was funny, and a bunch of people have asked me to put it on T-shirts. They sell T-shirts of Cat. I don't know. I might. I don't know. But he's family. He's my child, like Linus and Gracie are my children. He's very Persian, and I guess I've been reading about it. I guess this is a thing with the Persian breed, that they may not be quite as lovey. They're not lap cats quite as much as some of the other. I mean, I've had other cats my whole life, and they would, anytime you sit down, they're on your lap and they're just lovey, and some wanted to be held, and not Cat. He's never been that. He likes it. He's grafted to me, and he's definitely become more lovey and kind of snuggly over the past 4 or 5 years as he's gotten older. But I lay down, he's got to be right here kind of near my neck. If I sit on a couch, he has to be sitting on the arm, but he won't get any closer. I'm allowed to pet him, but only in a very specific way. So he doesn't like fingers on the fur, anything near the hunch of the back or his rear. Oh, hell no. He will give the immediate warning, don't touch that again, or you will bleed. But I can take the back of my hand and hold it up. I just hold it. And he walks past it, and he rubs himself on it. He's rubbing his scent, I'm sure, on me. It's a sense of belonging. I'm part of his pride. And he will start to purr very loudly, and he might allow me to scratch his head, neck, and shoulders for about 18 seconds. And then he decides he's done, and he turns into Satan. I get the warning. It's a very shrill, stop it. So he goes from yes, 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 yes to stop it immediately. If I continue to scratch him for another second and a half, he will make me bleed, right? He just turns on me. So I've learned. And we haven't had him turn on me for years. I know what the cat wants. I get the boundaries, all right? But he is totally bonded to me. I just got back from Knoxville, Tennessee. I spoke for the Rationalist of East Tennessee, did a speech there on identity beliefs. I walk back in the house, and of course the dogs are wagging and yipping and jumping and barking, and we have a big reunion. But Cat is right there, traumatized that I was gone for 2 days. And he follows me around. And he won't leave me alone. So he's a good kitty boy. He's a good kitty boy. And a couple of weeks ago, actually a little longer, he developed a limp in his left paw. We just noticed it. Honey, why is he limping? Hobbling into the living room. Wait a minute. What happened to him? So we gingerly grab him Wasn't a fan of that, but we grab him and we kind of massage the foot a little bit, the ankle. We check the shoulder. He's not jumping. He's not wincing. He's not shrieking. It doesn't look like there's a sharp pain, but there's something going on. Well, maybe he tweaked it jumping off a chair, right? So we decide, well, let's just keep an eye on him, and we do. Days pass. He's still limping. He is breaking my heart. I call the veterinarian, bracing myself, because here we go. You know they're going to do a radiograph. That's $200-$300 before I get out of there, but cat's family, let's do the right thing. I could go to some hole-in-the-wall vet, right? Oh, yeah, we'll do it for $59. We can get you in right away. And I'm not going to those sketch places. I want someone that's reputable checking out cats. So we go in, we do the x-ray, and the doc says bone spurs. I'm not sure I buy it. I'm sure there are bone spurs, and they say arthritis is a thing for older cats. But there's something about the way he's limping that makes me think it's a tissue injury. So right now we're having the conversation about whether to take him in for a CAT scan to check the tissues. And then I'm doing the math on that. Okay, how much money is that going to cost? But at the same time, it's not about money. It's about taking care. It's about doing the right thing, right? So we're having that conversation. He is lying here right next to me. He looks content. He's comfortable. His paw is sort of up on the cat bed. But anyway, we were sitting in the living room, back to my traumatic event. We're sitting in the living room and we're having a conversation. Natalie says, well, how old is Cat? So we started doing the math. Okay, we got him in 2011, and they said he was about 9 months old then, so it's 2014, almost 2015. Probably 14 years old. 14. So then I make this mistake, and I'm sure I'm going to set off your echo when I do this, but I call back. I said, Alexa, how long do cats live? And she says, according to, I forget the website, Wikipedia or cats.com or something, the average lifespan of a house cat is 14 years. And Nat and I just looked at each other. Oh my God, it's the beginning of the end. Cats live 14 years. I mean, it was just terrible. So we started looking at Cat like he's terminally ill. This is it. He's just going to fall over. He's going to deteriorate. We're going to wake up someday and he's going to be just dead on the bed. We totally worst case scenario ourselves immediately. And then I got smart and I pulled out my phone and I went to a reputable site. I went to the ASPCA website to learn more about cats. And okay, they often live a lot longer than 14. Some cats live to be 16, 17. There have been some who have reached 20. It may not be the beginning of the end after all. But I can't help it now when I look at them. I think, how long do we have? How long do we have? Shit, I'm doing it with Linus and Gracie. How long do we have? Linus is 10. Little dogs live, what, 15, 16, 17? Okay, I'll take that. It's a heavy price we pay for love. It's worth it. It's worth it. Every minute of every day it's worth it, but it's a heavy price we pay for love. Anyway, maybe call on the veterinarian again today to, I don't know, I'm just suspicious that this is some sort of a specific injury beyond arthritis. I don't know. I'm not asking you to email. I mean, I know a lot of people have experience. If you want to share that, great. I'm not trying to get diagnoses on social media. That way, madness lies. It has been an interesting week. I early voted for the first time in my life. I think, if I'm going to be honest, there were two main reasons. One, I just wanted to get it done because I'm apprehensive. I saw a meme or a cartoon where there was a dog and he had one of those vests on that said Thunder shirt. You know, the things that are supposed to make dogs feel safe and secure when storms come. And then his owner is sitting in front of the television set and he's wearing a vest and it says election shirt to help keep him from having anxiety. I have anxiety. So I think part of me wanted to just go. I don't have to think about it for another week and wonder, are there going to be huge lines? What if I don't make it through? You know, that kind of thing. And the second concern I have, and I think this is legitimate, I'm worried about some batshit crazy person driving through the parking lot shooting at the crowd with an AR-15. I don't think that's unwarranted. There's some nut bars out there. I think election violence, I hate to say this, I think it's inevitable. I think there are going to be outbreaks of pockets of violence all over the place, and you never know where. I think it's the agents of chaos are going to go and sow chaos. They want obfuscation. They want to make sure that it's so jacked up and crazy and chaotic that nobody knows what's up or down or true or false. And it's in that fog of war that the bad people can cry foul and maneuver and cheat and steal. Yeah, I'm terrified of that. So I thought, okay, I want to early vote for the first time in my life. Natalie agreed, so we set out the morning. She decided she was going to get into work late. She made that arrangement. She had to be in by 10:30. Okay. Well, if we get in line at 8:15, we should be fine. I'm thinking a half an hour, 40 minutes to get through and vote early. We show up at the polling place and the parking lot spilled out of the parking lot into a grassy and dirt area, cars everywhere. It looked like freaking Woodstock. It was an ocean of people. Coming out of the building, there was a line, and it wrapped all the way down to the north, and then it went around the building, and as we walked around over there, that line went so far, I couldn't see the end of it. It wrapped around some distant fence, and we thought, what in the world? Are we going to be able to get through this in time to get Natalie to work? How long is it going to take? What's happening? So we went ahead and hopped in. 2 hours. 2 hours, edging forward step by step, until finally we did cast our votes, and we have that sigh of relief. We got our I voted stickers. I don't know why I have such a rush whenever I get an I voted sticker. Yay, I voted. There are some people who say it doesn't make a lick of difference, especially in a red state like Oklahoma, and I understand why they think that. It's a pipe dream to think that Oklahoma is going to turn blue, that it's not going to be Trump land. We've seen the politicians, Governor Stitt, Ryan Walters, etc. But we are looking at Democratic candidates for mayor in this city. The Republican mayor in Oklahoma City just published a piece in the Oklahoman saying he's been a Republican, voted Republican his whole life. He feels like in order to protect democracy, he must vote for Kamala Harris. That is massive. That is big news. That's a major shift. Is it a reflection of what's happening overall in the state of Oklahoma? I'm not expecting a blue wave. I'm not a fan of that term. But are people getting fed up? I've seen people who are on our tennis team, in our relative social circle, in our neighborhood. I would have never pegged them to vote Democrats. And they're Kamala. They are ready, loud and proud and passionate about stopping the Trump train. Holy cow, is this a zeitgeist shift in Oklahoma? I'm watching Texas. Ted Cruz, who is pretty much without any redeeming quality. I just look at Ted Cruz and I can hear him saying, you know, this human suit is awfully uncomfortable. He is right there on the bubble. Some polls have him losing his congressional seat. Ted Cruz might lose. Wait a minute. Is something happening We're watching the Trump rallies dwindle, people leaving early. It just looks like a deflated balloon. Kamala rallies look like a rock concert filled with joy and enthusiasm. They're charged with electricity. Is something happening? And are these early voters, are they there early? Like, I think I had read a statistic, I don't want to misrepresent this, but that most early voters lean Democratic. They lean liberal. Is that true? We were watching the people. You're not allowed to wear election clothing to a polling place. That's illegal. But we were watching other markers. What are they? They have an American flag shirt and a camo hat. That's probably Trump. We saw a lot of blue. Natalie brought this to my attention. Women wearing blue and pearls. And I guess pearls are an indicator that you are a Kamala voter and supporter. I didn't realize that. Then, there was somebody else who had an activist type shirt about women or equality for women. I saw they just ran the gamut as far as ethnicities, far beyond white people. We saw people of color across the board. I saw people running from the age of 20 to 80. Few people in wheelchairs and walkers. I mean, it was wild. It was a sea and ocean of humanity there to vote early. It felt, I know this sounds like hyperbole, but it just felt like history. It felt like history. And even if and when Oklahoma goes for Trump, I sure like the idea of seeing the newscasters reporting statistics to the MAGA types that, the temperature of this state may be changing. Look at the rise of those who are in opposition to Trump and Trumpers. You may not be in the monopoly very long. Your privilege just might be temporary. You might be forced to share this state equally with people who don't look like you, sound like you, vote like you, worship like you, love like you, and you better just get ready for it. I really like that idea. Anyway, just picture me. Picture my dog with the Thunder shirt, me with the election shirt on for Tuesday night. I'll probably be glued to the television. High stress. It's stressful. Anyway, short break. I'll be right back with more babblings and ramblings from your humble host after this. My patrons get the broadcast early and commercial free. If you would like to support me, go to patreon.com/Seth Andrews and you have my thanks. So there is somebody on my outer friends circle. We would cross paths on the tennis courts 10, 12 years ago, and we haven't spoken in years. And yet, occasionally I'll see a post pop up on Facebook. You have those relationships. I mean, you don't hang out with hundreds of people, but you do have a connection in some way. And I know she is an evangelical conservative. And I saw a post of hers from a pastor about state-church separation. Now, she is a God and country Christian nation conservative, and she posted this thing from a pastor in Tulsa. His church is called Bridge Church. His name is Orlando Juarez, and I noticed that Karen shared it with the words, "Whatever you do, watch this," which is kind of what everybody's doing on Facebook and Twitter these days. Stop whatever you're doing. If you watch one clip today, watch this. But if everybody's doing that, then it becomes self-canceling, right? You're like, everybody says, this is the one clip you have to see. If everybody's doing it, then it loses its power. But I noticed that the video was about a minute long, and she's like, if you don't understand state-church separation, watch my pastor, or this pastor. I don't know if it's her church. Okay, here's the clip.
Did you know that the phrase separation of church and state does not appear anywhere in the United States Constitution? This idea of the separation of church and state doesn't mean that the church should give up their duty to be involved in the political process. It actually means that the government can't impose a specific state-instituted religion on its citizen, ensuring all Americans have the freedom to express their individual religious beliefs. Don't take this to mean that the church and the Christians should be absent from the political process. As citizens of both this nation and God's kingdom, we have a duty to be active, informed citizen engaged in shaping policies that reflect Christian values.
This guy, first of all, says that state-church separation isn't in the Constitution, which means he's never read the Constitution. You and I need to sit him down and educate him about the Establishment Clause. It won't take long, Pastor. We'll just tell you what Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion actually means. Okay, we'll talk about the Danbury Baptist and Thomas Jefferson's letter about the wall of separation, John Adams, the Treaty of Tripoli, blah, blah, blah. Okay, we'll tell him about that. We'll educate him. He says, we're a nation with Christians, but a whole lot of other people. So there he's sort of acknowledging we are supposedly a pluralistic democracy. Well, that's refreshing. But in the next breath, he says, however, we as Christians have an obligation, a responsibility to become activists and inject biblical values into our laws and policies. So I'm thinking, on one side of his mouth, he's saying we're not a theocracy and there's room for everybody. And if you disagree with Christianity, you have that right. You can be of another faith or none. Okay, fine. And then on the other side of his mouth, you hear him say, but we need the Bible to inform our laws and policies. Over here, it's we're not a theocracy. And then he flips his face to say, by the way, we want theocracy. I debated correcting the record. I know I'm not going to change her mind with facts. And in fact, the speech I did in Knoxville that's going to release in a few days or a few weeks will talk about why people are a brick wall and why I doubt she's remotely interested in my correction. But I felt it was necessary to correct the record. And so I popped in and said, let me inform you about some of the constitutional issues here and what it would do to non-Christians. And I did all that, and I laid it all out. God on the money and the pledge. I mean, I put it all out there. And after 3 days, there has been not one syllable of response. I'm not going to hold my breath. But the Christian Nation crowd, I don't know what Constitution they're reading, but geez. I had another guy chide me on Twitter because I posted this meme and it said, have you ever wondered what you would have done during the rise of fascism? You're doing it right now. And he said, you know, this hyperbole is not helping. We're not facing fascism. Anna Kasparian said as much on her page the other day. And so I actually had to respond with the definition of fascism. I just went to the basic definition, Merriam-Webster's definition of fascism. A populist political philosophy, movement, or regime that exalts nation and often race above the individual, that is associated with a centralized autocratic government headed by a dictatorial leader, and that is characterized by severe economic and social regimentation and by forcible suppression of opposition. Oh, yeah, that's totally appropriate. America is for Americans only. MAGA is infected with racist language and white supremacy. We've got a centralized autocratic government headed by a dictatorial leader. He said, I want to be dictator for a day. The guy wants to weaponize the government against his enemies. He wants to weaponize the military against everyday people. Who does that sound like? Trump loves totalitarian, murderous tyrants, Putin, Kim Jong-un, etc. Jesus. I mean, what else do you have to be a fascist? But my critics are out there saying, how dare you? This hyperbole is not helpful. It ain't all that bad. And I just disagree. I think it's plenty bad. Let us see what our listeners want to talk about today. Charles at 217, what's on your mind? What do you want to talk about?
The reemergence of David Barton's foundation of America as a Christian nation being sprouted by more and more people, high-profile people like Ben Carson. He specifically stated that when they were at an impasse at the Continental Convention that would formulate the Constitution of the United States, they marched in lockstep down to the Baptist church down the road and got into prayer mode and was enlightened and came back and formulated the Constitution.
Yeah, well, David Barton has been full of shit since day one. He's the guy who wrote a biography on Jefferson. I think it was him. And the biography of Jefferson was so riddled with inaccuracies that his own Christian publisher, Thomas Kincaid Publishing, pulled the book from store shelves because it was just so rife with errors. He's not a historian. He has no degree as a historian. He is an ideologue. He is a Christian nationalist. He is a history revisionist. He is totally full of crap.
Yeah, but it's beginning to become more and more of the evangelicals are reciting that specific point, that all the founding fathers were all evangelicals. And it's like it's beginning to grow into the Christian nationalism, and we're all supporting Trump.
When I was in Christian school, they sold us the myth that it was a Christian nation. Founding fathers were all Christian, and they were all pretty much saints. And, it was a whitewashing of history by those in power is something, sadly, that is not uncommon. All we can do is correct the record as loudly as we can. And I'm thankful to constitutional attorneys and experts on our founding and our country, like Andrew Seidel at Americans United for Separation of Church and States. They're doing great work out there. I'm going to move on, Charles, but thanks for the call very much. I appreciate you.
Bye-bye.
See you. Okay, I've got ARPY. I want to make sure I'm saying your name right on the switchboard. How do I say that?
This is ARPY.
ARPY, what's on your mind? What do you want to talk about?
Question I have is, did Jesus take his own life, as in the sinful way that Christians usually see it?
You mean, did Jesus commit suicide?
Yes, I didn't know if you wanted that word thrown around on the show. So
yeah, let's just call it what it is.
Just stepping lightly. Okay.
No, you're good.
Cool.
Yeah, Jesus killed himself. Jesus is God, is the Holy Spirit, the triune deity of the Christian scriptures, and he came to earth for the purpose of ritual suicide. Yeah, he killed himself. That's what I think. What do you think?
I think so too. And I'm kind of workshopping this argument for my sister, who's just kind of holding on to her belief by a thread. Like she's left the church that we attended as children, and she's currently unaffiliated, doesn't go to church on Sunday. And we've been having, I think, pretty good talks over the past couple of weeks, and I feel like this could be something that could kind of get her to flip that switch.
I mean, it's a pretty hot one. Is she that open? I mean, if you come at someone who is, I guess if she's deconstructing, maybe that's different. But if I was to say to somebody who was even a casual Christian, Jesus decided to off himself, I mean, that might put them back on their heels.
For a little context, it's what got the ball rolling for me. My cousin took his life a decade and a half ago, and just the way people were talking about it at his service just didn't really sit right with me. The pastor basically said, well, we know what happens to people who take their own life. He didn't directly say that he's in hell now, but he implied it, and that just made me sick.
Wherever you see a way in, I think that's valid. I mean, you can intuit that better than I can. If she's already at the point where she's starting to tap on the glass, then probably anything's fair game. I would just recommend that at all points she feels safe, and that, you're not pushing it. But deconstruction, I mean, I think once the dominoes start to fall for a lot of people, it's inevitable. And I hope she ends up going all the way to an authentic life free of dogma and superstition. In fact, if those conversations go well, or even if they don't, you should call back sometime and give us the update, okay?
All right, sounds good.
All right, take care. We'll see you later.
Thanks.
Yeah, like the atonement sacrifices in the Old Testament, right? They're like, there is sin in the land among our tribe. Bring me 2 goats. And they take 1 goat and they slash the poor thing's throat and bleed it out. and then they put the sins of the tribe on a second goat, and then they send it off to starve in the wilderness. That second goat was called the escape goat, which is where we get the word scapegoat. But I mean, how primitive is that? But Jesus was for us the atonement sacrifice. So all the sin goes on him, and then he dies, #dies, right? Which means he takes a 3-day hiatus before he reappears, and he has become the atonement goat. But it's accurate to say that he killed himself. He offed himself. Ritual suicide. Jesus Christ, I will die on this hill, even as he died of suicide. Nancy at 702, are you there?
Hi, Seth. Can you hear me?
I can indeed. What do you want to talk about? What's on your mind?
Well, I just want to say that I was on your show a long time ago. It was probably 2017, and it was the What Are You Afraid Of? And I was the one that was afraid of needles, and I have Maud Lebowski as my little icon picture. So I've been a big fan for a long time.
Nancy, you got to explain Maud Lebowski for those who aren't big Lebowski fans.
Oh, so there's a fantastic movie called The Big Lebowski by the Coen brothers, and Jeff Bridges is Lebowski, and Maud Lebowski is Julianne Moore. And it's a wacky, fun movie. Actually, I live in northern Utah, and we are getting ready to have our annual Lebowski Fest coming up soon.
I wish we were neighbors. Did you know that I'm a dudist priest? There's a Church of the Latter-day Dude. There's an actual religion that came up around the dude, which is Lebowski.
Mm-hmm.
And I went and signed up. So I'm an ordained dudist priest. So if you ever need someone to marry someone or be an officiant, that's just one of the. I'm also a monk. I went online and became a monk, and I'm an officiate with the Universal Life Church. So anyway, I'm sorry, I totally hijacked that. But when I heard Maud Lebowski, I went crazy. Go ahead, continue what you were saying. You called in fear of needles, and
and I was on your show, and we had a nice little talk, and it was just a thrill to be on your show. But come on down for November 9th to north of Salt Lake City. We're doing our Lebowski Fest. They have a costume contest. It's a great time. I love going every year. But the main thing, I've been wanting to get a hold of you and say thank you. So back in the midst of the pandemic in 2020, I had emergency life-saving surgery. My appendix wanted attention and had to have that done. But I spent a lot of time recovering in bed, and I listened to several episodes of your podcast. So I just wanted to say thank you for keeping me company while I was recuperating.
Thank you. Well, it means a lot. You know, there are millions and millions of shows out there, and I've been around so long, I keep waiting for the day I become obsolete and everybody replaces me. So the fact that you are still with me and that it made a difference in your life and became a companion, that keeps me going as well. And that's a huge amount of encouragement. So you be safe out there and have a happy Halloween.
You as well, but also super quick. If you want to come do the vow renewal ceremony for me and my husband next year it'll be 25 years for us, so we could have a dudist wedding officiant. That would be amazing for our vow renewal.
All right. Well, I'm around. If you guys get serious, just drop me an email and have your people contact my people, and we'll do the thing. Okay?
Definitely. Thank you so much, Seth. I appreciate this.
Well, it's an honor to talk to you. We'll see you later.
Happy Halloween.
You too. We'll see you.
Okay.
I actually pulled up the Latter-day Dude page. I wrote about this in my book, Sacred Cows, too. I wrote about dudism and the Church of the Jedi Order. I think, is that what it's called? It's a Jedi church based on Star Wars. Let's see. Dudism.com. While dudism in its official form has been organized as a religion only recently, it has existed down through the ages in one form or another. Probably the earliest form of dudism was the original form of Chinese Taoism, before it went all weird with magic tricks and body fluids. The originator of Taoism, Lao Tzu, basically said, "Smoke 'em if you got 'em and mellow out, man." Although he said this in ancient Chinese, so something may have been lost in the translation. Down through the ages, this rebel shrug has fortified many successful creeds: Buddhism, Christianity, Sufism, Sufism, John Lennonism, and Foshizel-Minizalism. I don't know what that is. The idea is this: life is short and complicated, and nobody knows what to do about it. So don't do anything about it. Just take it easy. Stop worrying so much whether you'll make it into the finals. Kick back with some friends and some oat soda. And whether you roll strikes or gutters, do your best to be true to yourself and others. That is to say, abide. Incidentally, the term dude is commonly agreed to refer to all genders. Most linguists contend that the diminutive dudette is not in keeping with the parlance of our times. Now, littered in here is a bunch of language that relates to the movie. They're on a bowling team. Parlance of our times is a line from the movie. All of those. I love, people either love or hate The Big Lebowski. I think not only is it awesome, it's one of the more quotable films. It's also impossible to describe to anybody who hasn't seen it. Dane at 574, are you there?
Yes, sir. Thanks for taking my call, Seth.
Thanks for calling. What's on your mind?
Well, number one, I'm also a returning caller. I was on our Atheist Leading People to Doom episode, and you asked me if I was dissatisfied with church and with Christianity, and I'm happy to report I still am.
Okay.
So that's number one.
So wait a minute. You're dissatisfied, meaning that are you religious or non, or?
Walked my way out just before that episode, and just before that call, and have been out ever since, and doing better than I've ever been in pretty much every metric of my life. So I'm very grateful for you and people like you that are creating content to help kind of grease the wheels of that exit. So number one, brother. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, you did all the hard work, man. And so props to you. What else is on your mind?
Well, so you were talking about your cat, and I'm working from home today. I'm working in my home office. I've got my cat by me. It's spooky season. It's Halloween, and the election's coming up, and all those things are on my mind, brother. So I figured I'd give a call in, and I really want to talk about the hysteria that is already surrounding this election, and surely Tuesday could be a nightmare. So what I'm stuck on is two of the principles that you definitely espouse would be the humanism aspect and skepticism. So I'm trying to apply that equally to both candidates. And I guess it bothers me, like a lot of the Nazi comparisons to Trump, because while there is similarity, I don't think it's the same. And if we're going to be skeptical and we're going to be empathetic, 50% roughly of the country is conservative. And so my question, I guess, is how do we lower the temperature as opposed to, just try to win? Because that's clearly the game he's playing, is just trying to win. How do we introduce empathy into the political process? I mean, that may be a fool errand, but I was curious to see if you had thoughts on that.
I think, to be clear, who was it who said, even if Trump wasn't a Nazi, the Nazis think he's a Nazi? There was that recent boat parade, and the guys show up and they're waving Trump and Nazi flags. I think he is a white supremacist. I think he has a history of white supremacy. I think there is white supremacy as a cancer within MAGA culture. So I take that stand, and I'm
Sure.
genuinely concerned this is a largely white and white supremacist movement. However, I also know that we are in a country of 360 plus million people, and there are a lot of folks who are not racists, who are somehow sucked into Trump cult, who either they vote solely on the abortion issue, or they still buy into he's the outsider business genius narrative, or there's something else going on and they're disconnected from the problems regarding race, et cetera. I'm not excusing it. I'm not saying that they don't have a responsibility to know this stuff. Ignorance is not an excuse. But I agree with what you're saying, and a speech that I am releasing in a few weeks talks about how we want to put everybody in a box and crush the box. Right? Everybody who is a Republican is a Nazi is just a nonsensical. It's a false statement. It's just wrongheaded. It's reductive. It's binary. And we as rationalists need to be better than that. And I know nuance is dead in the Twitterverse, but that's no excuse either. Republican equals Nazi simply doesn't fly. Am I saying there aren't Nazis in the Republican Party? Hell no. I'm not saying that whatsoever. And the only thing I know to do is to try to lead by example. and to engage my interlocutors as human beings first to try to determine what is their motivation? Who are they? What's their background? How have they been conditioned? Have they been brainwashed the way I was brainwashed when I was a Fox News Christian? And leading by example and trying to de-escalate with my language at the front end, that's my first line of defense. And it also keeps me in check because I can be biased and knee-jerky and nasty and all those. I can be wrong. And I have to be aware of that. I have to try to force myself into intellectual humility. How would you approach this complex issue?
Well, I mean, a lot of what you said, I agree with. I mean, most of my family is pretty conservative. I don't know that they're super gung-ho about MAGA, but they're probably voting for Trump on Tuesday. And yeah, I mean, honestly, since my deconversion, I've not been super open with it, and I don't really know how those conversations would go. But overall, our relationship hasn't suffered. You know, these are people that in many cases raised me, people I respect, people I love. And I guess my thing is, okay, we disagree on politics. So, and I don't mean to be flippant about that. There's certainly consequences to elections, and we need to be careful.
I don't know if we can say, let's just agree to disagree. We can, I think, to a point. But if I am in a room, I'm thinking about my own family, Dane. I can think of one person on my immediate family tree who is, I'll call her racist. There is some race, there is bigotry.
just come out with it.
I mean, there's bigotry, right? There is bigotry based on ethnicity, skin color, xenophobic, that kind of thing, right? And very much a Trumper.
Yep.
And then there's somebody within like 1 degree of them on the family tree, and they are the most generous-hearted person that I know. And they are voting pretty much completely on the abortion issue because they believe that a human life begins at conception and that abortion is murder and that millions of babies were murdered. So even if they have to vote again, for somebody they consider to be a toxic person, we're talking about life and death and the babies need us. And that's how they've rationalized it. Well, you don't fit that in the Nazi box.
It's the priority of it. Yeah.
But I do think agree to disagree works for a little while, and then it doesn't. If you are generally an awful person and you are bigoted against the people that I care about, I'm not sure I want a relationship with that. That seems a little reductive to me. Am I wrong, Dane?
This is a journey, so I can't speak yes or no on that one.
Okay, all right. Well, I don't mean to put you on the spot.
Principally, I think you're correct. If someone's showing those types of tendencies, I don't want to be around that person either.
It's situational, and I think it's complicated. There is a point, I think, of critical mass where someone is so awful. What they think in many ways is who they are. So can we divide that line? Can we be charitable, empathetic, see them as victims of bad ideas, try to wedge our way in? Sure. But I think it's okay to hit a point where you're like, nah, I don't want anything to do with this. And a lot of people have gotten there, and I don't want to deny them the validation that they.
Oh, I hope that's not what you heard me say. No, if that's a decision someone wants to make, I would support them. But that's just not the decision I've made, and maybe that's coming. So we don't know. No. No judgment if you've had to draw a hard line.
Dane, be safe out there, and keep spreading kindness where you can. And we'll talk soon. Okay.
Doing my best. Thank you, sir.
See you later. Already people are like, you know what? If you're this, I want nothing to do with you, you bigot, you Nazi. I don't know. I'm just weary of it. It just wears me out. We want everybody, everything, every circumstance. We want our responses. We want it to go into a tiny box and we crush the box. It just doesn't work that way. Oh, looky. We got more callers in the queue. We will get to them next. Thank you so much for listening. We're doing kind of a potpourri show as we get set to wrap up the month of October, and we go back to the phones. AJ is making a web call. Are you there, AJ?
Hi, Seth. Yes, I'm here.
Welcome to the show. What do you want to talk about?
Thank you. I actually met you in Houston at the Houston Oasis. I don't know if you remember me.
I
I
do,
am the
AJ.
woman with the cochlear implant. Yes, that's
Yes.
me.
Yes. AJ came up to my table,
Awesome.
and my father was deaf, and he had cochlear implant surgery, which opened his ears to the world. It was remarkable. And when I met AJ, I thought, wow, your speech, your diction is just amazing for someone who had long-term hearing loss. And so we had that moment where we were speaking about it. But I'm so glad you're here today. What's on your mind?
Thank you. Yeah, the fact that I'm able to call on your show, yeah, it shows how far technology has come, and I'm amazed. Anyways, so I've noticed that you really enjoy ghost stories and, spooky stuff. And I was wondering, when you were a believer, did you believe in ghosts as being the same as the spirit?
I believed in spirits and spiritual warfare. I saw, light and darkness. I wasn't crazy about it. There were some people who, everywhere they looked, there was a potential demonic force. There was a literal angel on their shoulder. I mean, I've met some extreme people like that. I wasn't that, but I worried about the Ouija board. Oh, God, you heard about some person and they pulled a Ouija board out of the box, and before you know it, their lives were impacted in some way by spiritual forces. And it was not in a direct way as much as I thought about it in the abstract, but I did believe that there were spirits, call them ghosts, call them whatever, some living things influential in the physical world that somehow lived beyond it. Did you ever believe in ghosts?
I did, actually. I was raised as an atheist, and then when I was pregnant with my kid, that's when I got into religion because he had a heart condition. So vulnerable young mother to be. So I fell into the Christianity web. But yeah, so I was going to tell you a little story. When my father-in-law passed away, it was around that time when, I started going to church and getting deep into religion. So unfortunately, my father-in-law passed away at that time. And the same day of his funeral, we were coming into his home. And keep in mind, this was before I had my cochlear implant. I only used a hearing aid at the time. And so we were walking into the house, and I heard him speak to me. And he said something that he will often say, it was like something like, hey, how are you guys doing? Or something short like that. But I heard it clear as day. And for many years, I told this story as my father-in-law spoke to me from the great beyond, that sort of thing. But as I became an atheist, then I started to consider the implications of my own claims. And I began to sort of get into a lot of neurobiology stuff. I love all stuff brain related, and realized that this was more than likely just a mixture of grief and maybe a memory that replayed in my mind.
I love the rationalist brain. You're literally dissecting what might be going on in your mind, whether it's sensory stuff, memory, bias, desire, will, environmental triggers, other things. You did some science on your own perception of ghosts. That's fascinating.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons why I started thinking more and more about neurology and brain science, and it's something that I really, really enjoy doing. I was hoping maybe one day we can do a video together about hearing loss and all of that, stories.
It's something I'm interested in, especially knowing that Dad was dragged into church after church as a young man. He stopped submitting himself to it, but he was dragged into all these healing services, or he'd walk into a new church and they'd see the hearing aid and they go, come forward. And everybody would lay their hands on him and pray and call down God's divine restoration power. And then he would leave as deaf as he was in the first place. And then it was science. It was science that became the miracle in his life. He died, I think, before he ever saw the irony in that. But I am thankful that he was able to, in that way, hear the world. And I feel the same about you. And you continue to speak beautifully. And I'm so glad you called. And I hope you have a safe and wonderful Halloween. Okay.
Thank you. You too. Have fun. Thank you for taking my call.
See you later. I mean, if you were to tell people half a century ago, yeah, we're going to actually kind of drill a hole in your skull and we're going to put wires in here. We're going to attach them to, I forget how it's all attached. Is it to the eardrum, or is there another part of the canal that it attaches to? And we are artificially going to send sound into an ear that no longer hears sound. When Dad had his put in, they had an option where, all right, well, would you like a separate wireless microphone that your wife can clip on to her shirt? So if you want to hear her directly, even if she's across the other side of the house, she could speak into the mic and it would go right into your head. And he said, hell no. I don't blame him. I don't think anybody wants that. Like, you really want to be spoken to in any room, anywhere you want. I don't think nobody wants that. But it was an option for him. And I thought, if you'd have told people in the mid 20th century that was even possible through science, they'd have been like, wow, it would have been like going to the far, far future. It's crazy. Bill on the web. Thanks for calling. Thanks for waiting. What's on your mind, my friend?
Polls, the political polls.
You want to talk about polls? Okay, fine. What do you think?
I think that Trump is in the lead because women are scared to object to their husbands. Their husband says they're voting for Trump, and the woman says she's voting for Trump just because her husband does, and she's afraid of reciprocations that are bad when she says she's voting for Harris. What's your take on that?
You bring up something interesting. Let me see if I can find this tweet. There it is. Dale Partridge. He is a Christian nationalist. I think he's a pastor. He runs a ministry, and he's popular. He has a lot of followers. And he tweeted October 29th, 9:06 in the morning, quote, "In a Christian marriage, a wife should vote according to her husband's direction. He is the head and they are one. Unity extends to politics. This is not controversial." So his take is, woman submit, follow the man's lead, let him do the thinking, because apparently he thinks it's the year 11 CE. And I've heard some other people say that maybe a lot of wives and female partners, they don't want to go through the shitstorm at home, so they're going to keep their Kamala vote under wraps, keep it a secret, maybe even lie about it. And I think the larger message there is that you have women trapped in relationships where they are not able to be authentic and might even be unsafe. I think that's even the larger headline. What are your thoughts?
I agree. I mean, that's straight out of the Bible. I've been an atheist since 1965, but I've got the Skeptic's Annotated Bible right here on my desk, and it says the same thing. Straight out of the Bible, women are supposed to subside to their men. And I think that's a lot of what's happening in the polls.
Well, maybe there is an underground in hardline fundy evangelical cultures of women who are yearning to see the misogynist predator defeated, and they will secretly cast a vote and help to weigh Kamala Harris's victory. That's an interesting take. I'd be curious to see what the comments are about that in the comments section. Anything else, Bill?
No, that ought about do it.
Well,
just let me say happy birthday to me.
Today is your birthday, Bill?
Yes, sir. 71.
Well, happy birthday. That's a lot of candles.
It's a small forest fire.
And dude, when I got to 40, we just stopped buying the individual candles and you buy the numbers. You buy a big 4 and a big 0. And I think after that, everybody has to. Otherwise, it's a fire marshal special. But I hope your day is special. I won't sing to you, but I will say happy birthday, Bill. Okay?
Good. All right. Thank you.
All right. Be safe.
Have
We'll
a good one, sir.
All right. We'll see you. I will call it and wrap it up and release this bonus podcast to everyone. I am so thankful for you. Let us, if I was in the faith, I'd have said, let's all keep our praying hands together for sanity and decency and compassion, empathy to win the day, but we're not going to pray. I think we need to be humanists, which means human effort, human intervention to find human solutions. You are much appreciated. Be safe. Happy Halloween. I'll catch you later.
Follow The Thinking Atheist on Facebook and Twitter for a complete archive of podcasts and videos, products like mugs and t-shirts featuring the Thinking Atheist logo, links to atheist pages and resources, and details on upcoming free thought events and conventions. Log on to our website, thethinkingatheist.com.